to Girudo, where you are never alone. And specifically, welcome to my show. My name is Bobby Maximus, and this is my show featured on Girudo, Commander for Dummies. It's a place where we can all learn. It's a place where we can do some deck tech. It's a place where we can make our decks more competitive and, frankly, just a better experience. So stay tuned, because today we are using one of my favorite colors in Magic. We're going to talk about how to use this color to improve your deck. And we are going to talk about 10 red cards that can go in any commander deck ever. All right? Now, red seems limited in power compared to some of the other colors. Blue is insane. Black is insane. White over the past few years has gotten insane. And I constantly hear people complain that red doesn't have enough powerful cards. But I don't think that is true. There are some absolute stunners in the red universe, and we're going to talk about those today. Now, before we go on, a couple of ground rules about why you can use these 10 cards in any commander deck ever. We live in a day and age where we have a bracket system. If you play bracket 1 or bracket 2, you're not allowed any game changers. So I didn't include any game changers in this list. Now, there's only 4 red game changers. We've got Deflecting Swat, we've got Jessica's Will, we've got Gamble, we've got Underworld Breach. None of those are included because you can't use them in any commander deck ever, all right? They are out. I also did not include any cards, and I do own this card. I own multiple copies of it. I didn't include anything like a Wheel of Fortune because, honestly, I didn't want to price everybody out. The 10 cards that I'm going to show you, chances are you have copies of these cards, whether they're in decks, in binders, they're laying around. And if you want to go out and get some of these, they're certainly not going to break your wallet or break your bank account like a Wheel of Fortune. So I just wanted to make that clear. So with all that in mind, we are going to start with some honorable mentions that didn't quite make the list, but I want to talk about. And the first one I'm going to show you is the Imperial Recruiter. And this Imperial Recruiter, this is from my Krenko Goblin deck. It's autographed, so I've actually pulled up on my side computer the text so I can read it to you. But when Imperial Recruiter enters the battlefield, search your library for a creature card with power 2 or less. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. And this is one of those cards that I feel has aged really, really well. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever, this card would not have been that valuable because there wasn't enough super powerful 1 or 2 drops. But in the day and age of a card like Esper Sentinel, this card is massive and acts as a tutor in the day and age of the Deathrite Shaman. And yes, we're talking about red, but the red cards that I've chosen won't just go in your red deck. They will go in your Izzet deck. They will go in your Gruul deck, all right? So Imperial Recruiter is one of those honorable mentions. Shatter Skull Smashing, and it's one of those MDFC cards. Shatter Skull Smashing deals X damage divided as you choose among up to 2 target creatures and or planeswalkers. If X is 6 or more, Shatter Skull Smashing deals twice X damage divided as you choose among them instead. So this is an incredible burn damage spell, if you will. And one of my favorite things about it is, on the other side, I mean, sometimes you just need a land. And Commander for Dummies, this is a hard part I had in my Commander learning curve. You don't have enough land. People think you can play with 30 lands, 28 lands. You can't. Maybe at a cEDH level where you have a ton of these super expensive 0-drop artifacts that nobody has, like a Mox Diamond, a Lion's Eye Diamond, things like that. But you do need more land. So the versatility in this card is insane, but it didn't make the list. Another one that didn't make the list, but I use this, and I use this in a very specific type of deck. Twin Flame. I have the Chucky version here because I do love myself some Universes Beyond. But Strive, this spell costs 2 and a red mana more to cast for each target beyond the first. And then you could choose any number of target creatures you control. for each of them, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it has haste. Exile those tokens at the beginning of the next end step. So if you're using this in a deck with a lot of goblins and you want a win condition, or you really want to finish somebody off, the Twin Flame can really, really do it. And I love this card. I've used this to win a lot of games. Unexpected Windfall. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card. If you're playing a deck like Disa the Ristless, where you want to discard cards from your hand into your graveyard to automatically cast a Lurgoyf, it is super useful. It's super useful actually in any graveyard type recursion deck. But you draw 2 cards and create 2 treasure tokens. 2 cards and 2 treasure tokens. Don't underestimate that. 2 of the most important aspects to being good at Commander or building a good Commander deck are card draw and mana ramp. So this card, it's an auto include in a lot of decks. Let's be serious. Bolt Wave. Bolt Wave deals 3 damage to each opponent. In a 4-way game of Commander, this is huge, and it can just put you over the top, and especially because it's a 1-drop, all right? So Bolt Wave is included, like the versatility of a lightning drop, or not a lightning drop, a lightning bolt a little more, but Bolt Wave is a great card. And then the final 2, they're extra turn cards. Extra turns are huge in Magic, but these I'm showing you together because they come at a cost. They come with a condition. Take an extra turn after this one. At the end of that turn, you lose the game. Last chance. Take an extra turn after this one. At the beginning of the turn's end step, you lose the game. They come with a condition. I like these cards, and I do include them in a lot of my decks. The problem is if you're playing against 3 other people, a 4-person game of Commander, you had better be sure you're going to win if you cast that card. Usually I won't cast that till it's just me and another opponent, because with 3 other opponents, there's too many variables to account for. So again, it's got some limited use. I like it a lot, but it didn't make my top 10. So with all that said, you got some great bonus content today. Let's talk about the 10 cards that I think can go in any red Commander deck ever. And the first one, surprise, surprise, because I earlier stressed the importance of lands, the Arena of Glory. This is not an inexpensive card these days. I'm looking off to the side. It goes for about $11, all right? But the Arena of Glory enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a mountain. If you're using this in a mono red deck, or you're using this like in an Izzet deck, chances are you're going to control a mountain. It's going to come in untapped, all right? Add a red mana. And here's the important part of this card. Pay a red mana, you exert Arena of Glory. That just means it doesn't untap in your next untap step. You can add 2 mana, and if that mana is spent on a creature spell, it gains haste until the end of turn. That might not seem like a big deal, but this is one of those things that towards the end of the game, where you really have to finish somebody off, giving one of your creatures haste, that can be the win condition that you're looking for. And at the very least, it gives you a red mana. So if you look at a monocolor deck, and I'm referencing my Krenko deck here to look at it, man, I have a ton of mountains in this deck. I have 35 lands, actually, 36 with my MDFC. Using this in a mountain slot is always a no-brainer, because that ability, trust me, you will end up using that. So the first card is the Arena of Glory. The next card is the Lightning Bolt. Maybe, arguably, the most perfect Magic the Gathering card ever created. And by the way, before we move on with the Lightning Bolt, these are all real cards I'm using. You see the different sleeves. These are from the various decks that I have and that I use. But these are real cards. I'm not just looking for cards to flash on the screen to show you. These are real, actual cards I play with regularly. So you know, I'm really into building my Commander decks. I have 57 Commander decks right now, and a lot of them are super competitive. If they're cards I'm using, they are good cards. Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt deals 3 damage to target creature or player. We all go crazy on removal, right? You need more removal in your deck. You need more removal in your deck. And I think this card gets overlooked because it's been printed so much and because it's inexpensive. But the Lightning Bolt, to deal 3 damage to target creature or player, it ends up being a really good removal spell. Because a lot of the creatures, like let's go over some of these creatures you're going to want to get rid of. You're going to want to get an Esper Sentinel off the board. You're going to want to get a Deathrite Shaman off of the board. You're going to want to get a Drannith Magistrate, a Grand Abolisher, a Voice of Victory off the board. And this card will do it. And you have the versatility of doing some damage to a player. And it's only a casting cost of 1. So you want to use it in a Storm deck. It's great for that too. So Lightning Bolt is number 2. That's an auto include. If the deck has red, even if it's a 5-color deck, honestly, a Lightning Bolt is going in there. The next card, and this is especially important for red and mono red, red mana ramp. If there's one area where the red color is weak, it is in mana ramp. It's problematic, all right? With green, no issues. You got a Birds of Paradise, you got the Elvish Mystic, you got the Land War Elves, you got you got all the cards, the Finhorn Elves. There is no issue with mana ramp. Marwyn, like I could go on and on forever. In red, we don't have quite the mana ramp. So the Fire Diamond, it ends up being super useful. I've talked about this before, but I'm going to say it again because, again, this is Commander for Dummies. And this is something that I honestly have to remind myself of this all the time. I need more tutors. Yes, I said it. I need more tutors, more card draw, and more mana ramp. The late games in Commander these days are, turn 7, turn 8, turn 9. You got to end stuff quick. So we're going to need some mana ramp. The Fire Diamond is super useful in a mono red deck. Don't sleep on it, all right? And here's the best part about some of these cards so far. The Lightning Bolt, you can get that for 94 cents. The Fire Diamond, you can get that for, let me see, this is the wrong deck, so I'm going to pull this up again because I want to make sure I'm giving you accurate information. This is in my secondary Goblin deck, my Muxus deck, Goblin Grandy. We call it the Blige Water Cartel. If you know that reference, then we could be best friends. But the Fire Diamond, you can get that for 28 cents. So great cards to include on a budget. Part of the reason they made my top 10 too. I used to fall into the category of thinking a card had to be expensive to be good, but that's just not the case. The next one, and this kind of falls into the mana ramp category for me. It's not traditional mana ramp, but it helps reduce the casting cost of my creatures. This isn't inexpensive, but it's $8 about. Red spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. And I said $8. I think there are less expensive versions of this. I'm looking this up right now. No, we're looking at $8, $7, $8. So I'm about right on that. My knowledge is correct. But red spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. You can get your stuff out faster on the battlefield. In a way, it's indirect mana ramp. I kind of put it in the same category as like an Urza's Incubator, right? Or a Goblin Electromancer, or some of these cards that decrease the casting cost of your spells. Absolutely massive. So a Ruby Medallion, if you have a mono red deck or you have a 2-color deck with red, this is an include. The only situation I might not play this card is if I had a 5 or 4-color deck. I might even play it in a 3-color deck if it was red heavy. So Ruby Medallion, all right? Trying to decide which ones to show you. I bet the suspense is killing you. Another massive one that not enough people play, and I don't get it. The Cursed Mirror. It's an absolutely incredible card, and I'm pulling it up right now. It goes for $2.25. Modern Horizons 3. Why aren't more people playing this card? Look at this. First of all, it's a mana rock, and we talked about we need more mana ramp in red. That's undisputable, all right? Every single Magic the Gathering expert on the world would agree with that. But look at this other ability. And I love cards that do multiple things. As Cursed Mirror enters the battlefield, you may have it become a copy of any creature on the battlefield until the end of turn, except it has haste. Do you know how massive that is? Not only, and that could be a win con, right? Obviously, if you get this out early, you're using it for mana ramp. But if you get it out late, the ability to copy a creature and give it haste, and not just I can copy my best creature, but you know what else I can copy? Your best creature. So that's absolutely massive. The Cursed Mirror, more people need to play this card. Again, early game, you use it for mana ramp. Late game, the fact you can copy any creature on the battlefield, huge, huge card. So we've got the final 5 coming up, and I'm trying to decide which one I'm going to show you. And the first one I'm going to show you is, you knew this was on the list. You're watching this video, you're like, Bobby, I need more Vandalblasts in my deck. And you absolutely do. First of all, it has Overload, which is huge. Any card with Overload, think like a Cyclonic Rift, is massive. But the big thing here, destroy target artifact you don't control. Artifacts in Magic the Gathering are incredibly powerful and incredibly valuable. You want to get rid of somebody's Lightning Greaves, you get rid of it. You want to get rid of somebody's Swiftfoot Boots, get rid of it. You want to get rid of somebody's Soul Ring, get rid of it. You want to get rid of somebody's Arcane Signet, get rid of it. You want to get rid of somebody's Great Henge, an insanely powerful card, get rid of it. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't take care of the One Ring because it has Indestructible, but there are plenty other. Agatha's Soul Cauldron. I want that off the board with that degenerate combo of Agathas and Vivis, right? So a Vandalblast. And here's the deal. I'm talking to myself right now. Bobby Maximus, you don't have enough removal in your commander decks. You prioritize cool creatures. You prioritize cool lands. You prioritize cool spells, cool artifacts. You need more removal in your commander decks. So Vandalblast acts as some really good targeted artifact removal. There's no world where I wouldn't have this in any deck I own that uses red mana, and especially because it only costs 1 red mana. And here's something you have to consider. Something like a Final Fortune costs 2 red pips, right? Unexpected Windfall costs 2 red pips. You'll notice a lot of the cards that I'm putting up here are artifacts, lands, or they only have 1 red pip. In fact, I don't have one card in this list that has more than 1 red pip. Because if you have 2 red pips, it's going to be harder to cast in a 5-color deck. It's going to be harder to cast in a 4-color deck. If it has 3 red pips, forget it. You can only use that in a mono red deck. So Vandalblast, super cheap, inexpensive artifact removal. This version of the Vandalblast goes for $2.24. But some of these you can get. The Final Fantasy Commander version of it, it's $1.29. So there's no excuse for you to not have a Vandalblast. Now, what if you don't have a Vandalblast, or you just want more removal and you have a bunch of mana to spend? This is crazy, this card. And I don't get why more people don't play this, especially because it only costs 39 cents. Destroy X target artifacts. So imagine you're sitting there and it's turn 7. You have access to 6 or 5 or 7 or 8. If you have a lot of mana ramp, 10 mana. And you can just wipe out a bunch of artifacts from across the board. 1v1 commander, this card's all right. Playing against 3 other people, and you know there's never a shortage of artifacts to nuke on the board. Trust me on that. So by force, it's from Amonkhet. I don't see a lot of people play this card, but honestly, they should. It is incredible. So get yourself a by force, and I would double stack Vandalblast, and in fact I did. You can see the sleeve colors. There's no lies told. These are from the same deck, my Blightwater Cartel Muxus Goblin Grandy deck. I double stack these in a lot of decks because I want artifact removal. It's that important, and there's a lot of games where I played a Vandalblast, and I wish I had another one. So by force, it is a great choice, all right? In some ways, it might even be better than Vandalblast. I love it. That's a controversial statement, but I've won a lot of games with by force. Next one up, Stranglehold. This is huge. What did I say one of the keys to winning a commander game is? Tutors. You need tutors. This shuts down tutors. Your opponents can't search libraries. And here's the best part of this. It's an enchantment. Not a lot of people play enchantment removal. I just said Bobby Maximus, you need more removal in your deck, and you need more enchantment removal. People focus on creatures, they forget about enchantments. So the fact your opponents can't search your libraries is going to be hard to get rid of. It's great, and it takes away their extra turns. Extra turns usually win games, all right? You can shut down people's extra turns. So Stranglehold, if you're building a red deck, you want to shut down somebody's tutors, you're playing a black deck, you got to use Stranglehold, all right? We are at 8 cards. We have 2 left, all right? And they're both useful in kind of like similar ways. And there's a gamble with these cards. No, the card's not gamble. The first one is Chaos Warp. The owner of target permanent shuffles it into their library, then reveals the top card of their library. If it's a permanent card, they put it onto the battlefield. So why do I say it's a gamble? You get rid of somebody's creature, somebody's artifact, somebody's enchantment, somebody's land, somebody's thing. The cool thing about this is it's a target permanent. You can get rid of any target on the board. Here's the other cool thing with it. You can deal with the pesky indestructible nature of certain creatures because you're not destroying it, they're putting it in their deck. So somebody has one of these big, bad, strong, I'm actually going to look through a stack of cards as we talk to see if I have one, but someone has one of these big, bad, indestructible creatures, you can get rid of it. Now, this isn't an indestructible, but look at Atali Primal Storm. Whenever Atali attacks, exile the top of each player's library, then you may cast any number of spells from among those cards without paying their mana cost. I promise you, you need to 100, 1,000,000, 1,000%. You need to get that off the battlefield right now. What are some other cards that we would want to get rid of? Dockside Extortionist is banned, and usually the damage is done when it comes out, so you don't want to get rid of that. But here's one you want to get rid of. Vorinclex Monstrous Raider. We need to get that off the board. It's a 6/6, trample haste, and if you put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many counters instead. You're playing somebody with a counter deck and a Vorinclex, you need it gone. My point is, Atali, Vorinclex, an Avacyn, an Eldrazi Titan, like you got to get these things off the board. And if they do happen to have indestructible Chaos Warp, it works, all right? Here's the thing. It's a gamble because they get to pull a card. And if it's a permanent, they put it onto the battlefield. But I promise you, it doesn't really get worse than certain cards, right? Like if someone has a Shieldred on the battlefield, and what a beautiful version of that card, it's not getting worse than this. Like, right, they got a bunch of cards in their deck. It is not getting worse. So maybe you get rid of Shieldred, but then they can put out a Fire Diamond. Like, you trust me, you are winning. Even though I really value Fire Diamond, I will gladly let somebody. You understand what I'm saying? So, here is the deal. Chaos Warp, it is almost always worth the gamble. Have I been burned by Chaos Warp before? Yes, but rarely, because if I'm going to use a Chaos Warp on a target permanent, it's going to be one of their best target permanents. And the final card, and hopefully you can see the lines of parallels I'm drawing here, the similarities. Tibalt's Trickery. Counter target spell. That's massive. Name me another counter spell in red. Go. Come on. I can't hear you. Name me another counter spell in red. I think this might actually be the only straight counter spell in red. I don't know if there's another one. If there is, let me know. But this is one of the only counter spells in red. And this card is not cheap either. By the way, this card, the version of this that I have is $9.80. But a lot of these cards go, there's one in Chaldean, it's $9, $9, $10. I actually got to pull this out of my Chaldean set because it is a great card. But counter target spell. Red counters are hard to come by. This is massive. Now you choose 1, 2, or 3 at random. So you can roll a dice, you can do whatever. Its controller mills that many cards and exile those cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card with a different name than the spell. They may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then they put the exiled cards on the bottom of their library in a random order. Here's the deal. You're going to counter something great, right? So it's kind of like Chaos Warp. Is there a world where you could counter a spell and they could then get to cast an even better spell? Sure. But if you're smart with this, if you're paying attention and you counter one of their best spells, you're always going to win. I promise you, that card, it's not going to be as good as the one you countered. So Tibalt's Trickery, I think it's super useful. I think all the text on the card confuses people and they get worried about the hypotheticals. Like, what if I counter this and they end up getting this? Here's actually one for you. I'm going to pull out my pirate deck just to paint a real picture of this, right? So you are playing a person and they have a treasure deck and they have a Revel to Riches on the board, okay? Revels to Riches is a great card, and I'm looking for it now. I want to actually paint a picture of how this is going to work, and I came prepared with my real decks, all right? So they have a Revels to Riches on the board, and the Revels to Riches says, whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token with tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more treasures, you win the game. So I've got this on the board, or your opponent's got this on the board. They get 10 treasure tokens, they win the game. And they cast this, the ultimate baddie, the Ancient Copper Dragon. Whenever Ancient Copper Dragon deals combat damage to a player, roll a d20, you create that many treasure tokens. Really? Are you kidding me? If I roll anything, I'm probably going to win with Revels to Riches. So Ancient Copper Dragon, I'm about to cast that. I promise you, I love my pirate deck. There's no other card in this pirate deck that you're worried about more than an Ancient Copper Dragon with a Revels to Riches on the board. All right? So Tibalt's Trickery, trust me, it's not getting worse than that Ancient Copper Dragon for you. So that's why that's so valuable. And the reason I group that and Chaos Warp together is, again, because there is a risk nature to it, but it's almost always going to pay off. It's a calculated risk, all right? So those two cards. So let's review our top 10 includes for any red deck ever. In no particular order, we have Stranglehold. We have By Force. We have Vandalblast, again, in case you didn't hear it before, you need more removal in your decks. The Cursed Mirror, Chaos Warp, Tibalt's Trickery, the Ruby Medallion, the Fire Diamond, the most perfect Magic card ever created, Lightning Bolt, and the Arena of Glory. There are 10 red cards that literally can go in any red Commander deck ever. This is another episode of Commander for Dummies brought to you by Girudo, where you are never alone. Hope you enjoyed this one of my favorite colors. There's a bunch of other videos on the site like this for you to learn. And like I said, I am here. My learning curve with Commander has been steep. I am here to help make your Commander experience more competitive, because let's face it, we all want to win, more fun, and to give you better solutions for your favorite thing in the world, your Commander deck. Until next time, I'm Bobby Maximus, and this is Girudo.